Hello and welcome to GYDAtalks, and today we've got someone from literally the other side of the world, but he's not the other side of the world today, he is in London. We have the wonderful Mr. Graham Blake from Blutui. Hello, Graham.
Hello, Robert. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. It's great to speak with you. And today we're kind of doing a two-parter. I think you're the poacher turned gamekeeper story. You're the I ran an agency, I got it up to 15 or 17 people. So many things were driving me mad. I couldn't stand it, but I kept on going. And then suddenly I had this aha moment that maybe I could actually help agency owners. So best thing, start at the beginning. Where was the agency? What did the agency do? Why did you start it up? Who did you start it up with?
Perfect. Thank you for that introduction. You've certainly got it in a nutshell. So essentially, so I'm Graham Blake. I've had successive different agencies going back over close to 30 years, starting off as a creative. Then appointing myself to be creative director of my own one-man band company, working out of a basement in Hamilton, New Zealand. And then things took off after a few years, as they typically do when you think you're doing great work. And we started to grow, and we embraced digital very early on, where others were kind of turning their back on digital. What sort
of dates are we talking about, Graham?
Oh, we're talking about like late 90s.
Whoa! I remember the old "Will planes stay in the sky on the Millennium?" That sort of time.
Oh, back in the days of freehand and SideQuest drives, and dropping things into couriers' offices to get them halfway around the world. Those were the days. They were challenging, they were a lot of fun, and they were oh so long ago. But we grew, and then we grew again, and I started up different agencies, and I think the count is currently 4. I've had 4 different agencies of different kind of, all indies, all smaller kind of 3 to 5, then 4 to 8, and then I think we topped out at 17 just before lockdown in New Zealand, but before COVID, and sort of luckily the year before COVID, we had identified a lot of the issues that we were having. We'd grown, but we'd grown sort of too fast in the wrong direction. We started to take on digital key account managers, thinking that they were going to sell for us, and they didn't. So that was I know, who knew?
If I had a pound for every person, you said, "Hey, we've taken on this salesman, and we've taken on this key account manager," and they were brilliant in the interview. They were so good in the interview.
Their best hour is the interview hour.
Best hour ever is in the interview. Yeah.
And we did the whole 9 yards. They had there was a fleet of corporate cars. I mean, a very small fleet, but all of those overheads came with it, and it hurt. It really hurt. And going into COVID, well, before, wasn't even time for COVID yet, and a very good friend of mine, who's still with Blutui today, said, this is madness. You've got to stop. We've got to basically downsize. And while we're at it, part of the issue that we have is that over our growth time, we'd taken on so many different projects, and we'd taken on so many different technologies to deliver those projects, that there became this kind of chaos and this kind of snowball rolling down the hill, where that
is so common, because it grows like an amoeba. Because someone says, "Oh, could you do something in Squarespace?" and you go, "Yeah, we could do." "Oh, could you do something in Doodle?" And you, "Oh, yeah." And, the client says jump, and you say how high, and then you've got And then because you've got different clients, you've got clients in Google, you've got clients in Microsoft 365, you've got clients in Yahoo, it's like
Yeah,
the whole thing just becomes a nightmare.
absolutely. An absolute nightmare. And to the point where, you're hiring non-productive staff. I mean, they're productive in their own way, but they're not billable staff really, to administer all of these technologies and to look after all of these lovely people who are doing their best. But when you look at it through the lens of a business owner, an agency owner, you're kind of going, but this is just technology. This is just the technology to create digital assets for clients or digital projects for clients. Why are they so siloed? And so Charlie Cooper, who is currently our product manager, I say currently, he's always been and he will always be a product manager for Blutui, basically sat me down and said, yes, you're downsizing the business, and fantastic that he had the foresight to tell me that literally 6 months before COVID hit, or we'd be in a very different spot now. But he also started to talk to us about how we could be doing things so much differently from a tech perspective. And so we sat down and we brainstormed it with the team, and we saw that a more universal approach to digital projects would be amazing, right? Would be a wonderful thing. And so we did a lot of research, or what we believe to be a lot of research. We headed over to Cannes, the last Cannes before lockdown, and talked to a lot of CEOs, CFOs, and there were a few CTOs there, and basically sort of talked about our own experience. And these were people with indies, sort of larger sort of multi-studio indies, as well as some of the holding company brands. And to a person, they all said, yes, that's our experience. Yes, our studios are in some degree of chaos all of the time, but that's just life, and we sort of dig in and do our best, and what are you going to do about it? So we took that last phrase, what are you going to do about it, as a bit of a challenge, and we went away and through lockdown, not just through lockdown, we'd been working on an MVP for some time, but then really put it together through lockdown and ever since to today. And now we've got this this platform that lets any agency deliver any project, and it was an absolute game changer for us.
So just is it a platform for managing projects, or is it a platform for designing and building websites, or is it both?
It's both. The full set of project management tools are not in train just yet, but it lets you manage projects. It gives you a dashboard. It lets you bring in talent from wherever you find your talent. They could be right under your nose, or they could be a world away. And it's just essentially, we've built the platform out totally informed by a studio workflow and the nuances of agency clients and how we thought, or how we think, agencies would best deliver digital projects.
Why don't we jump onto one of the numerous kind of white label type platforms that claim to do exactly what you've just said, and whether that's HubSpot, Squarespace, not so much HubSpot, Duda, Wix, Webidoo, Webflow, SiteJet. I mean, there is a list of people, many of whom have got warehouses full of devs. I mean, literally warehouses full of devs. I get the entrepreneurial David and Goliath. Well, two fingers up at you, we can do it better. And I love that. But it's a bit like AI. I mean, everyone, when AI first came out, everyone said, I've got to do AI. And then suddenly people said, well, actually, why don't we just let someone else have a warehouse for developers, and we'll just pay the $15 a month. So, I mean, did you do a sort of competitor analysis of all the other stuff? None of it actually does what we want to do. And what was it didn't do? And it must have been easier. Or had you just had enough of running an agency?
Hadn't had enough of running an agency. In fact, I still run the agency now, although it's a very scaled back version of what it once was. Yeah. A lot more efficient. But yes, we did do a lot of research around the competitors, and the competitors seem to be, and we call them competitors loosely because, you know, they're not 100% focused on agency business. They tend to be focused on turning an agency designer into an agency web developer, so that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of their target are the smaller freelance graphic designers who, you know, they can design a lovely piece of, they can design a lovely set of flat designs or a prototype, and then it's just a couple of steps, and then they've delivered their client a functioning website. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we applaud all of those brands that you mentioned. They do a bang up job for the mainstream and for budding graphic designers. But when you're wanting to be able to produce for your client, for true agency clients who are wanting anything from quick fire microsites or campaign landing pages or multiples thereof, because they're wanting to support some social campaign that they're doing and they just need landing pages, right through to, you know, beautiful web, like WebGL, JavaScript style, just fully UX, beautiful user experience sites with micro interactions and all that sort of thing. And then on to what would historically have been a web application, you know, big data hungry, data heavy driven sites that would have been, say, Laravel or those kinds of programs. Then you get squarely back into, you know, quite meaningful work. Not to say that those others aren't meaningful, but you're getting into the real kind of heavy work. And
but the problem is, I will interrupt.
Yeah, go on.
I like the body language. Go on then. Go on.
You've done it now. You've interrupted.
Yeah.
Keep going. Yeah.
So the problem, I mean, we have it. So at the end of some of the programs we run, agencies go off and they do a bit of research. A group of agencies get together, and what they normally, several of those projects are, we want to find the best CRM system, and we're going to go off to find it. And the three of them have a project for like 10 days or 2 weeks, and they all work together. They come back, give a presentation to the whole group. Or it might be task management system, or it might be a billing system, or it might be end-to-end system. I mean, there are, you know, the landscape of products and services that we can subscribe to is just bonkers. At every part of the internal journey, you know, at the agency, there are literally 10 key players that everyone knows about, and then another 50. You know what I mean? So and what happens is, as a user, so when we set up GYDA, we said, okay, we'll start from scratch. We need a decent management software system. We need a decent CRM system. And everywhere you go, at whether it's free, $5 an hour, $100 a month, rather $1,000 a month, everything, all promises to give you everything you ever wanted, and you'll be happier and richer than your wildest dreams. And it's not until you get 6 weeks, I'm talking in general rather than about you, and it's not until you get 6 or 8 weeks in, by which it's kind of too late because you've moved all the data over and you've closed the old system because you can't afford to have stuff running in parallel, that you realize that product X is wonderful at A, B, C, and D, but it's pants at E, F, G, and H, which the old system was great at. So my point, very long-winded, is how on earth do you get heard when everyone is promising everything to everyone, and you're promising an awful lot to an awful lot of people, but you just don't have the budget to compete with GoDaddy or WordPress or Weebly or Vendesta?
We're not terribly interested in becoming a household name, so all right, and we have a very tight developer group. We don't have a warehouse. Well, I suppose technically we do. Technically, we do have a warehouse because we have a kind of like a New York lofty warehouse studio. But no, we don't have a warehouse of hundreds or thousands, or multiply that out to those big tech giants. We don't have that kind of overhead. So we're able to service the clients that we've got really effectively, without needing masses of overhead. We and to the point around, how do we compete with those? We have direct relationships with clients. I mean, we're very new. We're very new to ad land, I guess, in that it's taken us nearly 5.5, nearly 6 years of development, and kind of like in-house development. We've been out meeting people, but we haven't really been pushing Blutui, and so it's taken us that amount of time to really get Blutui right. 12 months ago, this chat would have been a bit of a waste of time because people would have been going to the platform and just going, what is this guy talking about? But now we've got so many agency first features, it's ready to go. It's ready to be consumed. And in terms of what is the risk, and I'm not trying to sell, but what is the risk? There is very little risk. I mean, so long as you're an agency that has either in-house or available to it through freelance or through a current vendor maybe, or whatever, as long as you've got a front-end developer, you can come along and use Blutui, and we'd show you through it and get you comfortable with it. You don't have to, we're not your typical SaaS.
Is there something specific that you're nibbling at? Are you nibbling at customer experience or interaction, or are you nibbling at the speed of response, or are you nibbling at the if there's such a word, holisticness? I mean, what do you say?
There are a lot of elements to good question. There are a lot of elements to Blutui that make it agency centric. It is literally in everything that we provide as features. One such that we're about to release in October is something that we are calling Cassette, which lets you basically build out different versions of your site. So you had 3 or 4 campaigns that you wanted to get built up. You build them up as a cassette, and you essentially push play and push pause whenever you like, and go back to your kind of business as usual site. There's an example of something that is very well considered from an agency point of view, that you can literally have all of your next 6 months worth of campaign versions of your site all there ready to go, pre-approved, and everyone goes and has a much less stressful time of it, because they're not going to the running all the way up to the 11th hour trying to get their site perfect. So, you know, there's an example of, you know, are we nibbling? I'm not sure that we're nibbling. I think we're going straight to the heart of how agencies can deliver projects a whole lot more effectively, efficiently, and with less chaos in the studio, less chaos, less cost, less time. Giving yourself a lot of time to just do your research and get about things in a more methodical way than you know the chaos that often ensues in studios.
I think the most popular blog post I ever wrote was called something like "I'm not an SME, you SH **T exclamation mark." SME being small medium sized enterprise. And the reason I said that is because larger organizations talk about SMEs, technically either under 100 or under 200 or under 20 people, depending on whether you're in the UK, Australia, States, or in Europe. But I would call them independent or growing. And my point is, as soon as they call you an SME or an SMB, it says that they're large and cumbersome and like an oil tanker, and they don't really understand you running a business, and they for some really weird reason they lump together an accountant, a lawyer, a window cleaner, and a car mechanic as all being the same because they are SMEs, and clearly we're not. And you know, one of the fascinating things of this unicorn thing is they become big and corporate really, really quickly, and they lose touch really, really quickly, despite having better PR and better marketing campaigns. They lose touch with the end user really, really quickly. So I think that's hugely to your advantage. The other thing I really like is, you know, I'm a great fan of being able to throw a brick through the window of my suppliers, and you know, metaphorically, and you know, knowing that I have your email address, and possibly actually also have your phone number, I can actually get hold of you and say, hey, I bought this stuff and this thing's not working. You need to do something right now. Whereas, as we know, you know, if you try and close a subscription with, I'm just trying to do it with Xerox at the moment. I just don't want the machine. I haven't paid for it. It hasn't worked, and you're not, for some reason, for it, Xerox Europe are talking to me. They don't need to. They need the local man with the van to pick up the bloody printer. And it's the intimacy, you know, this thing, you know, trust, which is all that business is about credibility, reliability, and intimacy, divided by self-orientation. The more self-oriented you are, the less trust you create, and the more credibility, reliability, and intimacy you create, the more trust you create. And it feels that that's the wagon that you're on, which is great.
Yeah, well, you know, we've looked at, you know, as we've built out our platform, we've looked at, you know, we almost came, well, we came full circle. We started out saying we're going to be this champion of agencies because, you know, we feel so downtrodden ourselves, and not just from a technology point of view, but, you know, agencies get the rough end of the pineapple when it comes to, you know, clients taking their media on direct, and, you know, it's a real kick to the guts.
And there's more to
when you've worked
come in the next year.
Yeah, exactly. And so we ended up going full circle. We thought, oh, maybe, you know, this is a great CMS. Maybe we should just let it go out to the general kind of market. But I'm glad we stuck to our guns. And we're all about giving agencies a fair crack at basically making good margin, reducing the stress in their studios, and giving them a tool that actually lets them go and market their development, their website and web application, and you know, soon to be just about anything, because we're soon to be headless, go and deliver those with as much margin and in control of the commercial narrative, because it is truly a white label platform where, you know, everything screams your agency brand. Yeah, I mean, it sounds a little bit kind of, what is it, Robin Hood, or, you know, it sounds very ideological. It sounds very
You're in the right
ideological.
country for Robin Hood. Ned Kelly.
Oh, Ned.
But
No,
there's
I'm from
something
New
that's-
Zealand. New
Yeah.
Zealand, not Australia.
So me and my partner Janusz, right, we stand up on stage, and in the masterminds or in consulting, and every 6th or 7th agency we work with say, "Oh, we've got a SaaS product." It's like, "Oh, jeepers creepers." And they say, "It's amazing. It is. If we sell one in month one, and then we get 50% uplift, so we get 1.5 in month two, and we get 50% uplift, in 5 years' time, we will be a multi-billion-pound business." And you go, "Yeah, I know. We know the thing about the one grain of sand and one more in each square of the chessboard. We know all about that, and that's what we're going to do." And it's like, how do we let them down gently that running an agency is so entirely different from running a SaaS product? The only thing they have in common is you're doing it through a keyboard, and they're the similarity stops. I know that because I ran a cafe, then I tried to run a restaurant, thinking they were the identical thing. This is, for those of you who did MBAs, it's called the Ansoff matrix, you know. And you know, a cafe and a restaurant have as little to do with each other as an agency and a SaaS product. So I'd be really interested to understand how you found the difference between running an agency where you go into a meeting, you chat to someone, get to know them, get a sense of feel, often something, they say a bit more, a bit less, you go, "Fantastic, do that," you know who they are, it's Fred, and then a SaaS business where potentially the whole thing's very, very different. So what's the similarities, what are the differences? Agency.
I guess my journey has, or our journey, because there's a great team alongside me. Our journey has been that we've, as I started off saying, we were very heavily digital first anyway, right? Going back 10 years, we were building applications for different clients. We were performing open heart surgery on some rather big projects. And so as an agency, yes, we were out there listening to clients who wanted campaigns and brands and billboards and TV commercials and all of that sort of thing. Equally, we had those same clients with big e-commerce platforms or big, like loyalty platforms that we had built in different technologies, you know, for everything from Laravel to Ruby on Rails to you know, and that's when we started to think, man, we should really be looking at this differently, because you know, when you need a team for each project, and it's always great when the client says, yes, we want the project, we're going to approve the budget and we're going to go and do this project, and you know, once the champagne corks have stopped popping, and you've built the thing and handed over the keys, and you've got your last 25% of the project, and yet that's kind of when the fun starts, right? That's when you are performing open heart surgery on a project for however long, and you've just got to stick with it. So to have multiple technologies just means you've got to have those teams available, and when you don't have them locally, or you don't have them in house, and you've got to search for them, you know, somewhere in the world. I remember that we you know, in the case of a Ruby on Rails site, we were having to get a couple of South African geezers to look at this project. And when the client is, you know, having a crisis in New Zealand at 3 PM, it's no good. You know, the time zones aren't exactly sympathetic to you. to your cause. So I guess that's a roundabout way of saying when we how we got to being a SaaS technology platform provider, it kind of happened gently over probably 6 years. But to the stage where our agency is still in the same studio as our development team, so the agency is informing the agency the development team all the time.
It's one of those good news, bad news things, isn't it? The good news is that that your developers are being told endlessly, you can design that, but people like us are never going to use it. And it's kind of like, which is good news, in a way. And it's kind of bad news as well, because the cultures aren't allowed to develop. Okay. Really interesting. There's a thing that we're talking about a lot at the moment, which is web design agencies are complex. They have complex, like the relationship with my wife, like very, very difficult to understand. Nothing's consistent, nothing's regular, like football, very, very complicated, 11 players with different things going on in their heads, trying to make different things, like the weather. You know what I mean? So that it's complex. The human body, tons of moving parts, all independently doing their own thing, but somehow it all comes together. You can't quite figure it out. And we're saying your agency needs to be complicated. My relationship with my dog, very simple. It's food, toilet, and sex. That's it. They're not interested in anything else, and you can make it do whatever you want. Complicated, like a clock. Yeah, complicated, like a nuclear power station. And we're saying, complex is messy and impossible to manage, but complicated is, it's tricky, don't get me wrong, but if you've got the system, you've got the process, you've got the line going on, then it's quite easy to do, because there's a process to do everything and make it happen. So what you've described is running an agency was complicated because you wouldn't simplify it, I would say, because you wouldn't say to your clients no. You wouldn't say we do this one thing, we do this one thing only. You were saying yes to all of it. And it's not a criticism, it's just an observation. Whereas the SaaS product feels way more complicated. In other words, tons of moving parts, but they process, they're predictable, one fits on top of the other. You don't get random stuff coming from the outside. So it may well be that the SaaS product is a huge sense of relief after the why did we just say yes to that client sort of mentality that we have with the client. Oh, no, nothing we like to do. We like this thing to go, you go, oh yeah, I'm sure we can do that. Only take 3 or 4 hours. Does anyone know how to make it go? And then you realise that there's an old technology and it's not as simple as you thought it was, and it's all fixed and so maybe maybe the story you're telling is, despite my earlier observation that agencies trying to do SaaS find it very, very difficult, or they don't get the golden handshake they thought they were going to get, because agency is agency and SaaS is SaaS. But maybe because you've done it slowly, that it works, because it sounds to me like you've actually got the best of agency, which is we are people trying to help people do stuff which is quite tricky, and we were there, sitting in those same desk. We're trying to make this stuff simplify. We're trying to simplify the finance, the marketing, the operations. And maybe you are the Robin Hood, because you're trying to give these poor agency owners the opportunity to run a business that doesn't run them ragged.
That's right. And even to the point where successive discussions with different people, so many agencies so many agency owners have either ignored this kind of digital business, actually building stuff for their clients, and they'll either shop it out, or they'll basically pass on it and hope that the agency goes and finds someone that they can work with, because they've either heard that it's disastrous, or that it's chaotic and it's so difficult, or they've experienced it themselves with the various different technologies that are available, which tend to be mainstream, and tend to be mainstream to the point where the client sort of raises an eyebrow when they say, when you're trying to have a grown-up discussion with them and say, well, this is a 15,000, I don't know, dollar Pacific peso from where I come from, pound project, and they go, but or 100,000. It doesn't matter what the value of it is, but the client doesn't see the value in a mainstream technology when you talk about it as being a Squarespace project, or and there's nothing. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with Squarespace. It does its thing. It does its thing exceptionally well. But its roots are not in Adland. It hasn't been built up completely and 100% informed by how an agency approaches business, which in turn affects the way the thing's being built. And there are agency owners out there that are basically missing out on a fantastic revenue stream, because there are technologies out there that let them do their clients' work through their agency exceptionally well and quite seamlessly. And they may or may not need to have their own internal talent to do that. But when you can put forward an enterprise platform that looks and smells and feels like it's your own, it's got your agency branding all over it, you're bringing in the talent, you're delivering the project, it's a shame, because everyone's scratching around looking for enough revenue to keep the lights on, and here's an entire kind of offering that people are just going, oh, it's just literally waving hands in the air, it's just too hard. Well, it is a bit hard, but we've made it a hell of a lot easier.
The conundrum, I guess, for you, because I think this is a really interesting conversation, because we don't often get to talk to the people who run the businesses who are trying to supply to us. There's not we just normally see them driving around in their Aston Martins, leaving the conference. The problem is that your target customer, which happens to be our target customer, are working in a really unlicensed territory where it's a bit wild. It's still Wild West.
Yes.
And the poor agency leader, on a Monday morning, stands up on the high street, so to speak, and looks around, and everything and everyone says, we can help you be richer than your wildest dreams. And we know that that's not true. And we've all tried stuff. Some of it's worked a bit, some of it hasn't. And then when we went from 5 to 10 people, it stopped working. Or when we tried to do it in Europe, it wouldn't work in Europe. Or when we tried to make it fit on mobile, it wouldn't do it mobile. Or when we mounted up video, it wouldn't do video. So your target customer is a bit ground down about suppliers, and the budgets from the big guys and gals. I've been to some events, and you go, there's 500 of us here, and they put us all in 5-star hotels, and they've flown us in, and they've given us the six-course taster menu and wine, and they are spending bonkers amounts of money. Of money. Buy from me, just sign paper. And even we in this industry forget, I can forgive my wife when she goes, oh, this wonderful product. I must try it. It's called Vitamin F. And you go, there's no such thing as vitamin F. No, no, no. I watched this man on YouTube. He told me it's a secret the doctors won't let us know about. So doctors won't let you know about it. It's because it doesn't really exist, you know. But it's only £200. So we're not naive, you know. We should know what's going on, but we still think, oh, all these reviews on TrustAdvisor, that it must be true. It must be, and that's, I mean, that's, yeah. We have to talk in a year's time, because that's, I mean, you are doing Robin Hood plus David and Goliath in a really tough space. I also recognize, because you're small, you don't need 100,000 users, you know, to be able to put some smoked salmon on your table. So I think that's really fascinating. I think that makes this challenge really, really interesting.
Yeah, well, even, I mean, you mentioned how cashed up these tech giants are, and you know, we see them when we go, you know, not that we go to Cannes every year, but when we've been to Cannes, and we see them taking, you know, £500,000 stretches of the corset, and it's all kind of champagne and caviar, and you know, the money's coming from somewhere, right? Well, a lot of those technology companies are kind of so mainstream. Like they don't look at the ad agency business much different to what they might look at the accountancy business or the whatever consultancy business.
Increase in earnings per share year on year. Thank you very much.
And they're driven by Wall Street, or they're driven by the city. All right. Literally, Blutui as it stands is, you know, it's a friends and family play. I've had some investment. The agencies, our agency has supported it, keeping the lights on for a number of years. It doesn't, and the team are part of the business from an equity point of view. So we're actually in it for agencies, and we're doing our darndest to make the switch to something like ours really easy. You know, when we don't have these convoluted tiered pricing matrices that
top discounts and extra discounts, and if you sign up for 10 years, an extra discount.
No,
recommended.
We literally have a chat, you know, and it's not even done other than booking a fly through the platform. That's it online, because we actually have grown up conversations with agency owners, and we sit down with them, or we, you know, share a screen and just ask them about their business. How would Blutui work for them? And because they, you know, no two agents, well, plenty of agencies are kind of the same, but they're not all the same. You know, some might be doing 2 or 3 high-end sites per year for big brand clients, and others might be doing 3 or 4 landing pages a day for social media clients, you know, and the platform can handle both, but they're very different value conversations. And so we have conversations with agencies. They say, yes, we'd like to give it a go, and they give it a go, and if they don't like it, they can pack up their tent and leave. We don't hand out gym memberships and then we not hand them out.
Members of the world. Listen, Graham, this has been an awesome conversation. Thank you very much for what I would describe as revealing behind the kimono, because we don't get that opportunity to kind of get into the brains of our suppliers, really. And I love the fact you're still running an agency. You ran an agency. You know exactly what that's about. I guess final question. It's a bit of a naff question, but I think it kind of works. Which is, what is it you wish you'd known when you started on this whole agency journey? What is the thing you wish someone had come along and said, Graham, one sentence of good advice, if I were you, what would that be, do you think?
The agency journey. Okay. Creators should not be allowed anywhere near an Excel spreadsheet. Right. Just because they've got, you can color a cell doesn't mean it's for a creative. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You need good financial advice around you.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Look, Graham, thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving us this. And thank you very much, actually, for not doing a pâté de foie gras. Go to the website, download the PDF, get the free membership thing, blah, 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 blah. You're adult enough to know that, our people will figure out, where to find you, which is obviously in the notes afterwards. But it's been really great talking to you. And it is, I can't tell you how good it is to talk to a face behind a brand. Yeah. Because very often we've done interviews with Google and with Microsoft and so on and so forth. But we're always talking to the VP of UK, blah, 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 blah. You're never talking kind of to the actual face, the actual thinking behind it. And they always say, oh, our vision is and our beliefs are and what we're trying to do is, but it's this spoon-fed thing that's come via Accenture or whoever it is. It's not kind of real, whereas this is clearly real. If it works, you can go get yourself a new t-shirt, and if it doesn't work, you're going to keep wearing the same t-shirt. There's a sense of this is a business like ours, which is just so important. So so thank you very much for spending the time with us, and I think we should book in that call for a year's time. It'd be absolutely great to see how far
outrageous.
Lovely.
I think we should.
Have fun, enjoy London, and have a safe journey back to New Zealand.